So, the title of this live is going to be focusing on Asia, the culture, the vibe, the women, etc. All right, so I have traveled to Asia quite a few times. My first time outside the country, I went to the country of Japan for business related matters. But eventually, on my own leisure, I went back on a trek to Asia, to several Asia countries, to include Japan, but also to Thailand, to the Philippines, Vietnam, and Taiwan. The center focus of this live will be mostly on Thailand and the Philippines. So when I was in specifically the Philippines, I noticed a number of different things. So the Philippines is a hodgepodge of different cultures. This is due to its colonial past, and some people would say its colonial present. But specifically, its past related to the Spanish conquistadors that came over to the country of the Philippines hundreds of years ago and colonized the islands, the various islands, and subsequently forced their culture and a bit of their language onto the people. Most notably, it's one of the only Asian countries where the people have Spanish names. Hernandez, Ruiz, Cortez, etc., is commonplace throughout the islands in the Philippines. Also, in addition to that, it's been conquered by a number of other different nations, to include the Japanese for some time, hence some of the Buddhist temples throughout the islands, most notably on Cebu and Manila. And then also, in addition to that, it has a ever-present cultural influence by the United States of America. So one of the things that I noticed upon arrival within the Philippines was that the people, obviously, they're out of many of the Asian countries, they're fine practitioners of the English language. So the reason for that is that many of the Filipino people are taught English within grade school, in addition to their various natural cultural language, depending on the island they are on. Tagalog or Bisaya is the two popular original languages, languages of the set of islands within the islands of the Philippines. Also, in addition to that, I noticed the people, they had a bit of a Western flair. They was very much Westernized as far as how they act. Unlike Thailand, where the people, they appear to have their own Asian culture, if you will, most notably influenced by the spirituality Buddhism, and then also the fact that Thailand has never been conquered, unlike the Philippines, which has been conquered repeatedly. And due to that, I felt like there was more of a semblance of who they was in Thailand, speaking their own language all the time, primarily, except for in social gatherings and business gatherings with the English language. And also, I felt like the people seemed to be a little bit more orderly, whereas in the Philippines, I felt like the people were in a bit of disarray. And as my time in the Philippines continued, I got to see exactly why that was the case. Driving through the island that houses in Manila, one of the biggest things you'll see, even come from the main airport, Nino Airport, is the fact that you'll see a lot of shanty towns. Shanty towns is a reoccurring theme throughout the islands of the Philippines. Shanty towns or slums is very prevalent, and it notates the financial stratification that is an issue within the islands of the Philippines. It actually has caused such a financial downturn for the islands that the people, up to 10% of the population of the Philippines, is scattered throughout the planet, particularly in the U.S. and the Middle East, looking for better employment, housing, et cetera, and just a better overall life. Within the Philippines, I noticed that their ride sharing options was a bit sparse. You basically just had Grab, and then you had driving setup called Jeepies. Jeepies, they're kind of like tuk-tuks akin in Thailand, but they're a bit smaller in some ways, a little bit more cramped, and it's kind of like you're on a small Jeep a small truck, and they have a cover over top of the back side of the truck. It houses, it crams in a bunch of people. It's a cheap way for the Filipino people to get around, to get to the job, to get home, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not ideal for tourists that's coming there. So basically, you just have Grab, and that's it. And you have the options that you can catch a Grab taxi, a car, or motorbike. You'll notice that a lot of the car options are, a bit more dated, a little bit more old school. So that normally is akin to the GDP issue within the country, similar to a country like DR, for instance, as opposed to maybe Costa Rica, which is a little bit more financially stable country. So, and you could compare that, the Philippines, to Thailand. Thailand being a more superior, more well-structured, well-oiled machine. Also, in addition to that particular transportation issue, they have a subway service or railroad service. However, it's not the most robust, and it can be a bit complicated and cumbersome. Unlike I believe the BTS in Thailand, which is more robust. So if you if you want to save a little bit of coins, if you will, you can catch the subway in Thailand, which is cheaper and is a much better setup. It's very similar and easy to navigate, similar to the train system in the United Kingdom in London or New York City in United States, respectively. As far as the food, all right, so I'm vegan. One of the trials and tribulations of being within a country like the Philippines is that they are big on fried food. They love to fry their food, which is not the most healthiest thing to eat. Majority of their cuisine is deep fried, and that really just goes back. You ever have people that deep fry food that they want to make something quick, easy, tasty, and that is quick, not hard to make. It doesn't really showcase culinary care, if you will. Let's say like Italian food or even Thai food or Indian food for that matter, which I feel is a little bit more heartier, a little bit much healthier cuisine, and hence why those aforementioned cuisines, minus the Filipino cuisine, is our national dishes worldwide. Any place you go around the world, you'll find a Thai restaurant, an Indian restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and that harkens back to the fact of how amazing those countries' cuisines and plate choices are. So, unlike the Philippines, where when's the last time you heard of a place really having a Filipino dish? So the fried food is definitely a sucky thing for me. And then also the reason why it's a problem for me as a vegan, because a lot of their food choices are made with meats and pork, especially pork, the swine, which is out of all the meats you can consume, is the worst one. It has the most maggots, bugs, insects, disgusting properties to it, and is also the most unhealthy meat out of the various meat sources to eat, i.e. chicken, fish, and beef. So that kind of makes a damper on the trip. So I had to think about different places to go. They have vegan restaurants, but it's not as robust. And the thing is with Thailand has a more robust option, a vegan option, but also in addition to that, the cuisine in itself is more accommodating to all palates. That's due to the spirituality that Thai people celebrate, the spirituality being Buddhism. So in Buddhism, they honor those all life forces in many ways. They're on the planet. That influences the behavioral pattern, which I'll get into in a moment. Also influences the cuisines that the Thai people make. Not just Thai people, many of the local Asian countries. Taiwan is the same way. Their food options cater to people that's vegetarian, specifically. Same thing with Indian food, because when the people are actually following their spiritual faith, it tells them to be mindful of how they treat all life forces on the planet. A bit of a circle of life paradigm that the people celebrate within their spirituality, as they desire and focus on reaching the state of nirvana, which is the ultimate height of the spirituality in Buddhism. Similar to, for Christians, those that are watching the group in the West and the United States, our goal and thought process is to reach heaven, right? So, yeah, but the thing is with the Filipino dish, they're their dish is mostly based off of rations and what they have available, and then also what is quick, easy, and it's just not the most desirable for multiple palates. You have to really be into eating a lot of meat, and if you are, you'll like it. And then also you want to be into eating a lot of fried food because you're going to get a ton of it when you're in the Philippines. So that's something to be mindful of. Now the people. When I was in the Philippines, I've dealt with a lot of Filipinos in a number of different career paths I've been into. Let's just put it that way. And, I think that, anytime you're dealing with people that have a colonial past, whether that's African Americans, right, or Dominicans or Filipinos, it influences the people. Some for the good, some, and maybe some might say for the good. Some people, historians, but also many people would say for the bad. I.e., creates a victim mentality or a savior mentality where they look at certain people as being more special than others. When one of the common terminologies you'll hear amongst Filipinos when in isolated one-on-one social conversation, when having a discussion on anything pertinent, is the fact that the people have a bit of a crab mentality. Now, for a lot of people, as African American, you've heard that terminology. One of the few places I've actually heard that terminology used outside of the African diaspora. But that symbolizes the people have like a cutthroat, dog eat dog kind of mentality amongst each other. And that's due to the issues that plague the Philippines with the political dynasties that have plagued the country for decades, the passing around situation with the different colonialists over the years. And I mean, you can see a lot of similarities, not just with the Filipinos, but with many people that have been colonized. And that breeds maybe a bit of a contempt for others. Segue on that, as we know with colonialism, it brought us a caste system, if you will, of colorism. So for me, being a brown-skinned, dark-skinned guy, when I was there, I would meet a mixed bag of people. Some would look at me in awe and oppress, and then some people would look at me in disgust or like I'm a villain or something. And you've heard a number of different YouTubers comment on this. His name is Big CZ, and then also Austin Holloman. He's talked about this as well. Maybe not so much with the Philippines, but just in general colorism throughout the world and his travels. But certainly, leave the name Big CZ. He discussed specifically the colorism and the lunacy of behavior in the Philippines. That kind of thing turns off a tourist, especially if he's black, right? And one of the biggest things I would notice is that, similar to when I was in Eastern Europe, one of the first things people ask me is like where I'm from, and they're like, "You're Black American?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then you would notice that the people might be a little bit more nicer to you, and that's because of the GDP situation with the United States, as opposed to, let's say, where else I could be from on the planet Africa, which is a little bit more downtrodden. So when you're American, you're looked at as more useful, more resourceful, and due to the resources that accommodate those from the land of America, and hence, because of that, you're treated a little bit nicer, especially as a black person. Also, I mean, my good looks don't hurt either, but I think the thing is when I noticed that kind of behavior, it was like, and then it was like not, of course, you know, being a black person, you become very perceptive and keen on determining what is making people act funny style, if you will. And it happens once or twice. You don't really pay attention to that. It's loony people all around the planet, loony black people all around the planet, right? But when you keep having it happen over and over, and then it's like you go to this island is here, and then you don't want to hear me talk about the southern islands. And there's more to that than just the culture. There's also is one of the most polluted states in the world. We all know when the environment's polluted, it messes with the mind of the people, similar to in Baltimore with the lead poisoning in the water. That messes with those people's mind. And when you're in a air polluted space like Mindanao, it's going to mess with your mind, right? So then the economic situation, and then the other real issues that people got to deal with. So then the culture of the black is bad, white is right kind of thing. It just messes with the people a little bit. And it's not everybody, but it was a little bit too many, in my opinion. As a black guy, I know with the women, it was kind of like a fetish thing, right? So you've heard this before, with black men, especially if they're handsome, big, buff, muscular black guys. Is always this fetish of like being with a black guy that has a big phallus, right, and that knows what he's doing with that. And so I would notice like with some of the women, which I mean, for many, I mean to be fetishized isn't really a bad thing, right? But as long as the guy's getting his end goal. But I would notice like it would like not just with Philippines, but even when I was in Thailand, I would notice like with some situation I had, you could feel it was like a thing where the girls would want to, the females would want to deal with you like for once or twice, and then it would be like, that's it. And it wasn't like a desire for like a relationship or anything like that, anything that substantial. It would just like they just wanted to get smashed, and that was it. And I noticed that a lot throughout my trek throughout Asia. Vietnamese, I didn't notice it. Vietnamese is very conservative. So even though they look similar to, let's say, Thai people, their culture is super conservative, and they don't really act like that as much. Japan kind of is and kind of isn't, depends on what scene you're in. But and the two popular ones that a lot of expats go to, Thailand, Philippines, as a black man, I definitely noticed that. And I also met some women that were interested in more serious engagements. One most notably when I was in Thailand. But yeah, I noticed that was a kind of a reoccurring theme as a black man when I was in Philippines and Thailand, respectively. Yeah, Vietnamese people like to laugh. Yes, they do. They like to do a lot of karaoke as well, Mark. Yeah, and that's another thing. On to a more softer topic. Karaoke is super popular. I know it was when I first went to Japan. That was my first country I ever went to outside the country. They love to do karaoke all the time on Friday and Saturday nights after work. People would go down to the local bars, and you see these big sign that said karaoke, and people would do the whole karaoke thing and drink what was it called? It wasn't soju. It was sake. That's what it is in Japan. It's sake. And then when I went to South Korea, soju was the drink of choice. But yeah, people love to sing their hearts out. You'll notice this if you're a boxing fan. Manny Pacquiao, the famous boxer from the Philippines, he would, after his fights, win or lose, one of the biggest party things that him and his people did was they would go out after the fight and go to a local club, pub, or bar and sing karaoke. And that's just like a thing, not just with the Filipinos. All the Filipinos say that's like a huge part of their makeup, but also all throughout Asia, and Taiwan as well, but also in Japan and South Korea. So, yes, it's definitely a good engagement of social gathering, and that's one thing when you get over to the Far East. If you're not into, you want to get into. You don't even got to be good at it. I mean, whether you're out with friends or you're out on a date, you don't have to be the best singer. You just have to, just give it a try, and you'll be surprised that you are liking it, having fun. You might be able to hold on to a tune. You never know, especially if you got a good drink in you. Mark, what are you saying? What was something memorable you ate in Vietnam? So when I was in Vietnam, what did I enjoy eating? I enjoyed pho. Yeah, their pho was like, you got the pho in the state, but when you go right to the source, oh my God, like amazing stuff. And I really enjoyed it. Pho was definitely the most memorable food item I ate. Yes, it is super cheap. That's another thing. Now, piggyback on another positive attribute of the Far East is that, particularly in the Southeast Asia, is that things are super cheap. So one of the allures of going to places like the Philippines and Thailand, and you'll notice this once you get out the plane and pay for your plane ride and so forth, when you catch your ride sharing service like Grab or Bolt, respectively, depending on which country you're in, is that whether it's 10 minutes to 30 minutes, the ride is on average no more than 10 to 15 bucks. And I mean, you could be in the car for maybe 30 minutes or so forth. And this is, i.e., to give idea that, let's say you're in Manila, right? And you're leaving the main airport from Nino International Airport, normally flying in, I believe, Terminal 2 or 3, and you go to, let's say, where most tourists stay at, BGC or Makati, which is if you're gonna go to Manila, that's where you got to be at. That's, and particularly Makati, that's where the party scene is, and that's where everything is happening and so forth is. Whether because the traffic can fluctuate between how good it is and how bad it is. You're probably not going to spend over $20 at best. And I mean, you might, even if you're caught in a traffic jam, you're not going to really go over a high amount, whereas on the East Coast in the United States of America, whether you're in Baltimore, DC, Philly, or and definitely New York, you're looking at, for the same distance, $60 or more, guaranteed, even in an Uber or Lyft, which Lyft is a ride sharing service in the United States of America. Yeah, I mean, you're not getting a cheap deal with the ride sharing service, but it's always a pleasure when you go to a country and you're saving. In addition to that, the food, not just the pho in Vietnam, but the various food, let's say sig in the Philippines, dirt cheap depending on where you get it. Not just the street food, but even the local commercial vendors. I mean, you're not spending for a full plate if you go to one of the local places, not the commercial, not the place that's really high end, like in BGC, but the more affordable spots in and out, in and around the BGC perimeter, or also Makati, which would be a little bit more cheaper. You're not spending over $5 for a plate. I mean, you're not at all. If your palate is more versatile than mine's, I mean, you might spend less than $3. You can eat street food even if you have that iron steel stomach and you can handle the street food in these countries. I mean, you really can eat really cheap. For a person that's from America, that's a traveler, is akin to going to Mexico, right? And you get the tacos on the street, and let's say you're in Guadalajara or Ciudad de Mexico, or even if you're in the local spots outside the hotel zone in Cancun or on the other side of Playa del Carmen. You're not, if you go to those places, if you haven't been, you eating like the locals. You're not spending but a few bucks USD. So it's the same in the Philippines, and really it might actually be cheaper in the Philippines as well as in Thailand, respectively. Oh, hey, what's up, QB? How you doing, man? Absolutely, yeah, definitely facts. I mean, that's one of the allures of traveling. Like, people always talk about women and stuff like that, but that's one component of your travels. But also, in addition to that, it's the overall quality of life, and what's included in the quality of life is the money you save. I mean, that's, as a man particularly, that's the number one thing I'm thinking about. It's like, how much the trip costs, how much the flight costs. How much does the transportation cost? Like I talked about extensively with Grab and Bolt over in the Far East, or Uber on this side of the planet. I'm thinking about how much does the lodging cost? So is it cheaper to stay in a hotel, Airbnb? Then I'm thinking about the quality of the hotel and the Airbnb and so forth. Then you're thinking about, as far as finances, you're thinking about, okay, if I want to go long distance, maybe I don't want to do Grab and Uber. Maybe it's not available. So maybe that location, especially in a lot of tourist locations, particularly in third world countries, they maybe don't have the Uber or the ride sharing service in it. So how much does the taxi cost? All right, are they going to really be trying to get a lot of money out of me? How do they treat tourists? All those things, how safe it is, those kind of things in the traveler's hierarchy of needs, if you will, tends to take precedence over other things, let's say women and so forth. So absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's all facts. I mean, that is a lore of the Southeast Asian countries that really gets a lot of people going, particularly a lot of men that cultures have traveled predating what a lot of people, let's say, that are black have. Because I was in the military, and actually what got me into traveling was my time in the military. And I would meet so many different people, different cultures, different pseudoscience named races, and particularly I meet a lot of Caucasian guys, right? And so a lot of their parents was in the military, particularly when I was in Japan, and they would tell me, "Hey, Corey, man, like you got to travel," and they would tell me about things they would do to make their life go very well. And also, they would tell me about the benefits of travel. They would, particularly a lot of guys, would want to stay over that side of the world and work in the main countries that house military installations. And then for their retirement, they would go to places that have become popular on the YouTube world, like Thailand, the Philippines particularly. And you'll see a lot of military members when you go to like Clark Base or Angeles City. A whole bunch of military guy, older than me. I actually chopped it up with a couple of the guys when I was out and about with a young lady. And man, I mean, people. That's one of the biggest things you'll always hear people talk about is the quality of life they get because they save so much money. So much money. I mean, they give you a little bit even more understanding of that. Let's say you're a retired guy, right? And you did your time in service, and you have a few ducats, right? A few grand coming to you per month. So it's like I could stay in America, right? And I could make that work. And you could move to your southern states, which is what a lot of Americans do once they're ready to retire, like Florida most notably, but Texas as well is a hot spot. The state of Arizona, because the cost of living goes down drastically as opposed to, let's say, a California, right, which is basically just beating you over the head with everything, financially speaking. But you could also be a geomax, what's called geomaxes, which is where you look at the globe, right? You look at the geography of the planet, and you figure out, man, where could I go to save the most amount and get the best of everything? And so Philippines, for many people, is one of those places. That's why you'll see so many expats, military expats, within the island and houses of Manila and then Angeles City, respectively. And with that, you get a number of different benefits. Cost of living, let's say rent, right? Or where you're staying at. How much are you spending, right? That's the question. I mean, you can get a nice property for $1,000 in Angeles City, even maybe even a little less. And you got a nice apartment. You got some nice company with you, and your cost of living continues to go down and down. Food, depending on how you eat. If you don't want to cook, you can eat street food. You can eat locally, and the plate prices are ranging from $3 if you eat street food to $5 if you go into a commercial vendor. You could do this every day, all 3 meals, all throughout the day. Gym prices tend to be cheap. I mean, you're looking at $5 to $10, right? And I mean, it's like, man. I mean, if I got several $1,000s coming to you per month, I could I could move to Florida, right? I could move to Florida where a lot of Americans do. I could move to Portugal, which a lot of Western Europeans do, right? Because it's cheaper in Portugal than in, let's say, the United Kingdom or France. Or or I could go somewhere nice, warm, and tropical, and where, as a man, things are still patriarchal. So for a man, you would obviously like that. And with that, you're looking at Southeast Asia, particularly Thailand, Philippines. Let me look at the comment where I'm at. Oh yeah, QB. So yeah, I'm back in the States now. So I'm talking about the Philippines because I was in the Philippines and I was in Thailand, but now I'm back home in the States. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Thank, bro. Thanks for these great tips. Yeah, for real, man. I mean, so many people like I know it's like when I'm watching a lot of the videos, there's always this focus on women or the debauchery, and that's cool. You're gonna see that when you go there, and you'll pick up on that very quickly. You'll learn that game real fast because it's real low vibrational anyway. But also, there's other things to think about. The way you're treated. As a person, how you're treated. Do you feel welcome? The cost of living there. Is how dangerous it is, how safe it is. Those are all important things you want to be aware of. And it's like if you imagine, like, let's say Colombia, right? It's always been such a hot place to go to, right? For the women and maybe for some other stuff too. And that's good and all. I mean, but there's hot women everywhere. And if you're a man that can pull women and or attract women anywhere, That's not really going to be something that you really are that obsessed over that much after a while. More important things become more of a point of mattering to you than that, if you will. And for the intelligent man, the financial aspect is always going to be the most important thing to you. But be that as it may, it's like if people knew about the scopolamine issue and the severity of that much quicker, how many more lives would have been saved? People had known about the fact that Southeast Asia is a very viable option, has been a viable option, particularly for a lot of military members for the past 3 to 4 decades, right? You've heard rumblings of it. You've seen the movies and so forth. I think it was like American Gangster. You kind of saw a lot of the guys. I mean, they were doing some wild stuff, but it kind of hinted to the fact a lot of people would stay there, right? And kind of hinted how they did that. But you didn't really hear about it, and you only saw one side of it. You didn't see the other side. You didn't see the spiritual side of it, the Buddhism side of it, the highlights of how Buddhism shapes the people and why it's so much safer over there. Why travel.gov, the premier United States website that determines where it's good to go to, where it's not good to go to, says that the Far East, pretty much all the countries, are super duper safe, right? And if you did know about that, would you then consider a Colombia? Would a lot of men that lost their life consider a Colombia? They might think about it and be like, I don't know, maybe maybe I could pivot. Maybe I could pivot, try something different, right? So yeah, I mean, these things are very important. Let's see, Rich. Tips for long haul flights. I have one coming up. All right, so for long haul flights, if you're going to Asia, right? If you're going to the Far East and you're on let's say the East Coast of the United States, best way to do it is fly to Cali, get some sleep. So like after you can go in the afternoon time, and then when you get to Cali or the West Coast towards the evening time, get a hotel from LAX or whatever airport you're flying to. If you're flying through Seattle, get a hotel next to the airport and get some sleep. That is because you don't want to be constantly on a plane, then have a layover, then go to another plane, then sleep another 14 hours on a plane, then another 10 hours. You want to be able to get some rest, get a shower in, get cleaned up, and it just help with the overall process of venturing to the Far East. So if you're on the East Coast, I recommend flying the way of going to either the West Coast, or if you're, let's say you're going to Thailand, which tends to be the goat of the Southeast Asia and Asian trips in general within the travel space. You could also take a flight to the Middle East, then have a nightly layover there, get a hotel, get some sleep. Then in the morning, finish your trek from the Middle East to Thailand. And that's good. I think that's something I definitely would recommend, because for me, I like to be cleaned up, be good to go, booted and suited, if you will, military terminology, and then just I think like that helps with the trip, because when you touch down, you probably gonna want to touch down, hit the ground running, right? So by doing that, I think that helps in accomplishing that desire. A lot of times with a lot of people in the West, particularly in the United States and Canada, especially in the United States, you only have but so much leave, right? You only have so much time over there. Normally a week to 2 weeks, right? Maybe a month. So you want to get it all in as much as possible, and you don't want to waste any time, especially with jet lag, which you're going to incur if you're traveling on a long haul flight, such as from the United States to the Far East. So that's what I would recommend. Also, in addition to that, what you wear, right? So you want to wear something comfortable. You don't want to wear dress shoes and slacks. When you're on the plane, you want to wear some sweats. So you want to wear like a jumpsuit suit, something like that, or like a sweater and like some loose pants, and like some sneakers. So maybe some Air Force Ones, or like something like that, something that's comfortable, and that, I think that's good as well, because you don't want to wear something tight on the flight. The air is a bit more restricted in the air. The the oxygen is more restricted. But also, in addition to that, when you're in a tight quarter, like on an airplane, on an average airplane, especially flying coach, if you're trying to save some coins, you don't want to wear something that is tight on. You want something loose fitting. So that's what I would recommend as far as long haul flights is concerned. I love the work you did at Kabira. You is a great man. Yeah, I mean, so many times people like they're only focusing on, as an American man, like I'm very privileged. There's a lot that can be said. Like early in the conversation, I was discussing the racial dynamics of the Philippines, and also, you could discuss a lot of the racial dynamics of the United States. But be that as it may, I think that as an American, I have a lot of opportunity. All of us Westerners really have a lot of opportunity, and a lot of times people are like traveling to these Western countries, to these countries that where the GDP is lower or where the people are a little bit much more downtrodden, right? And people, i.e., people are less privileged, for lack of a better word. And I think one of the things that people could do for other people is to service other people. I mean, when you go somewhere like Kenya, and you having fun, you're partying and so forth, but you get an opportunity to go somewhere like Kabira, and you see what the kids have been through. Unspeakable things have been done to them, which Irene goes into discourse in this vlog, and then also on the associated websites with the Kabira Pride Initiative. And what inspired her as a woman, I mean, she's doing it all by herself. I mean, all by herself, this black woman in Kenya. And I mean, I can relate to that because as a black man, I mean, it was just me and my mother, because, my father was a punk. And I know a lot of black men, a lot of young black, a lot of men in general, not just black men, but a lot of men in general. I mean, I met in my travel, especially when I was in the military, when I coached and played football and so forth, had similar stories. It was always, the woman, taking care of things. And I'm seeing that as a man, and I'm thinking, man, there's something wrong with that, right? So it's like, how can I contribute as a person that has the opportunities that I had? And yeah, man, I mean, I wish I could have did more. I mean, I wish I could have did more. Those kids, what they go through, and what Irene's doing all by herself. I mean, that's a God sent organization, and any bit I can do to help him. Actually, bring me to another thing that I've been working on off and on, is that there will be a virtual volunteer option within the coming months for the Kabira slums that will be initiated by myself and others to help with the promotion of the Kabira slum, and then also help with the volunteering efforts to the Kabira Children's Home and the slum at large, to help promote the organization of the Kabira Pride Initiative, get the word out, get more people to come. If they can't come physically, they'll be able to come virtually to volunteer their efforts. We're looking for people that can teach various subject matters for the students, and more information on that will be forthcoming. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, thank you. And for you, Mark, if you want to volunteer, if you ever get a chance to, if you haven't already, to take a trip to Kenya, I would definitely promote you to go there. There's a Airbnb experience. I actually put it in the comment box for this video, where you can sign up and volunteer for the local groups. Actually, the one that will be for the Airbnb will be an organization called KCOP, KCOOP. And is another organization within the Kabira slums that does much of the same thing to help out the youth, the disadvantaged youth within the Kabira slum, the largest slum, unfortunately, in all of Africa. But fortunately for people like you, you can go out and volunteer and help those that are in need. So yeah, definitely is a good thing for sure. Yeah, so going back to Asia, the Philippines, and focus on Philippines and Thailand. Philippines is it's it has a lot of various aspects of it that's really cool. I'm in the martial arts, do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitively, and one of the things I've done a little bit in the States, and that I was looking to do there, but it wasn't that easy to get involved with. I done some Jiu-Jitsu in the islands in Cebu and Manila, but it's called Filipino martial arts. Filipino martial arts is a striking martial art. It is similar to, let's say, is a weapons striking martial art. I guess you kind of say it's kind of similar to Krav Maga. People might be more aware of that. Kung Fu, and it was an art that was developed eons ago. For the people of the Philippines for self-defense. Now, the thing about it is because it's not so popular, it's hard to find a gym. Right? They actually don't, most of the places, particularly in Manila, where I was hoping to find one, they don't have a gym. So a lot of times they go to a local gym, local regular gym, and they practice a martial arts. It's basically stick fighting. So I've done it in the DC area. There's actually a couple places where you can do it there, and yeah, it's a good workout. It's a good form of self-defense. It's used by a lot of military personnel, and yeah, it's really kick-ass. I think that if that was an art that was promoted a little bit better, it could really help with enticing a lot of people, the martial art disciplines, to come to the Philippines to check it out, and then also invest and bring money, of course. So yeah, any similarities to capoeira, Brazilian martial art dance form? Well, for Filipino martial art, no. Filipino martial art is a striking art, yes, but it involves it's some hand-to-hand combat. It's some hand-to-hand combat. I would say it's more like kung fu. It's more like kung fu, the hand-to-hand portion of it. The stick fighting would probably be, I guess you could tell it or connect it more to kendo. But yeah, capoeira is more like as you are, it sound like you know already, is a martial art that was developed by the Brazilians, by people that eventually became the Brazilians, the Angola people of West Central Africa, that were stolen from Africa and brought to, which is now called Brazil. And it was used by the slaves to escape their captors and build their Colombos within the various parts of Brazil. Recife, there's a famous Colombo, Pedro do Sol, in Rio de Janeiro. But yeah, that art is that's a little bit more, and that art has a little bit more of a sporting aspect to it. There's like two parts of it. There's the traditional way and then the sporting way, which became popular in the early 1900s to help rid it of the negative reputation it had by some people within the Brazilian culture and country. And it's also a little bit more commercialized. I mean, capoeira is better marketed planet wide than I would say the Filipino martial art. Filipino martial art is really strictly a form of self-defense. There's competition where the people go over the maneuvers similar to katas, but it's not really like a much of a competitive aspect of it from my level of knowledge. There's not. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's many similarities to capoeira. I would not, from my level of knowledge, I would not say there's many similarities. But yeah, yeah, that's one aspect of Filipino culture many people don't know about, but it is a fascinating has a fascinating history behind it. The Filipino martial arts does. So also with the Philippines, you know, it's some good things about it, right? You know, I like that they have this place called Burgess area, Burgess Street. They have a lot of different clubs, a lot of hip hop clubs, Afrobeat clubs. I have a video on my vlog called Filipino Nightlife, where I'm at this really popular one. It's called Royal. So if you're into the whole nightlife thing, they got that for you. If you're in the Philippines, though, and you're into nightlife, women, and so forth, the place you want to be is Manila, between Manila and Angeles City. There's really no need to, I would say, to go anywhere else in the country, just due to the fact that everything is centralized there. The best of the best is centralized there. That's where the business hub is, the major business hub is. Cebu is too, but that Manila is really where it's at. The better hospitals are there. The more flights incoming and outgoing are through Manila to neighboring countries, just in case, because you're flying all the way over to Asia. You may want to check out another Asian country, most notably Thailand. Much easier to get to Thailand from Manila than it is from Thailand from Manila than it would be from Cebu, right? Cebu might be less options for flights, but Cebu does have a lot of international flights too. It's an international airport there, so Cebu is an option as well. But Cebu is not the clubs there. They have a couple clubs. Icon is it's called Icon. That's probably like the best club they got there in Cebu, and it's okay. I mean, it's not better than Royal. It's not better than what's the other one? Royal, and then that's not really a club, but it's a place called Secret Door. That's like a after party spot, and then they have a bunch of little bars and clubs in and around Burgess. So if you're really like if you're going to Manila or Philippines in general, and you want to go out and enjoy the nightlife, the best place to be at is going to be in downtown Manila, Makati area specifically. So, yeah, I think that when you go into the Philippines, that's really the place you want to be at. And really for the first few visits is being in and around that island. Then also go check out Angeles City. For the good and the bad, you'll have some good time. And if you're into the women, you'll definitely have a lot of women to see and meet there. So, yeah, I think that those places really all you need to go to when you're in the Philippines for the first few visits, and then of course venturing out to places like Baraka, and which is like the one of the premier islands that they have there. They have the white sand beaches, which is nice too. I recommend if you go there, bring a lady with you. For the men, just make sure you bring some company with you, because there's no point to go there solo dolo. Philippines. Overall, Philippines is an okay spot. But is it better than the country I'm about to talk about, Thailand? Nah. The infrastructure is just not there. I don't think so. The infrastructure is not there. I think due to the political corruptness, a lot of things have not been invested, and a lot of the locals will hint at that. A lot of things have not been invested financially for the upkeep of the country. It tends to be like I spoke about maybe 30 minutes ago. You'll see much more slums, shanty towns. In Thailand, Bangkok, for instance, they have shanty towns there. You just probably haven't seen it, and that's because they keep it hidden. It's a well-designed city. You have Santorn, you have Tunglor, you have Sukhumvit, all these places, well-developed neighborhoods within the Bangkok interior. And you have slums there, but you're not going to really see it that much because it was just a much well-designed city, and much more money has been put into the city and the overall development of the country as a whole. When you look at the Philippines and Thailand, now that we're talking about Thailand is a country that has been really marketed for international tourism. They've been doing it since the 1940s. Unlike its neighboring country like Vietnam, which was doing a lot of infighting and then outfighting with a lot of countries, most notably France and United States, which destroyed their main hub, Ho Chi Minh. Thailand always had this thing. Thailand is known as the land of smiles, right? Never been conquered, unlike Vietnam or Cambodia, or to a certain extent, or Philippines. And there's a reason behind that. When the Western powers, France, UK, was going over the planet, taking over the whole planet, Thailand always worked with everybody. Most notably, unbeknownst to a lot of the Western powers, Russia. So while, let's say, when France gave them an insurmountable amount of money that they had to pay them, just like they did with Haiti, Haiti didn't have anybody. But with Thailand, behind closed doors, they had Russia. And they did it with a smile. The land of smile. They always present, you'll see this when you get there at a lower level. People will be much more friendlier. They'll do something called sodika. They always greet you with that and bow with their hands and so forth. And that goes back to their Buddhism influence. And the Buddhism is spirituality is a reoccurring theme, and it really, really influences the people's behavior. A lot of people don't talk about the spiritual aspect of things. Just like in our country, like with football, you have all the football athletes, they're always praising Jesus Christ and God and so forth. That influences their behavior, it influences their way of thinking. So when you go to Thailand, you have the focus on Buddhism and Lord Buddha and how they are gravitated to being a good person essentially by following spirituality. A number of people I've hung out with, a number of girls I dated, that's been like their center focus is the Buddhism and going to the Buddhist temples. So with be that as it may, piggyback and going back rather to the history of things, they always do things with a smile, but they always had a backup plan, always. They have like 22 different smiles. They have 22 different friends. Some of them you don't even know about. And on an international level, they had Russia, something that France maybe didn't know about. So while they were giving all this money that they had to pay, they had Russia helping them out to pay off the debts, to get things down, and to which they eventually paid off. And they were never really brought down economically. And then with that, they learned through observation of the neighboring country, China and so forth, to do international business, to make allies with the West. Because I mean, obviously, it's kind of like you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. And so they saw that before a lot of other people. And so they in many ways joined in on the Western powers to include doing business with them, particularly after the end of the World War II in the 1940s. So since the 1940s, they've been developing their amazing country, which is now why it's one of the most visited parts of the world outside, I think, Spain. I think like they have a return rate of visitors of over 22%, which is amazing. That is amazing. That tells you right there the ingenuity and the attractive level of a country like Thailand, unlike Philippines, which is much less. They have nice beaches in the Philippines, like in Baraka, but yeah, it's not. I mean, the Baraka can't beat Phuket with not just with the beaches, but just with the amenities they have there, the $10 massages, the Muay Thai fights. So you into Muay Thai, like I like doing Muay Thai, like, and then you go watch the fights, like the professional athletes. I even have a couple clips on this YouTube channel, a couple of events I went to. The food, like I said, a lot of Indian vendors go there because it's safe and they can do business there. So you see a lot of Indian restaurants there, a lot of course, Thai restaurants. And because it's so well developed, it attracts so many other different cultures, Italian and so forth. So you'll see a hodgepodge of different food options. Hey, how you doing? Hey, but Jamil, but that aspect of Thailand has geared it to be one of the premier travel destinations on the entire planet. So yeah, I mean, also in addition to that, for the fellas, you got Pattaya, right? So a lot of guys, they love going to Pattaya. Pattaya for the women, Pattaya for the cheap food as well, and then also for me, the cheap lodging. I mean, you'll see a noticeable financial difference what you're spending for a hotel. Like, I mean, you can say at a real nice 3-star, 4-star hotel for $50 to $60, or maybe even like $50 or $40 on a right day in Pattaya. As opposed to Bangkok, you're looking at more probably like 70 to 80, maybe almost to $100. So lodging is more affordable. Long-term options are more affordable. I mean, you got some condos only a few blocks away from the beach for $250 to $400 in Pattaya. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, in the Philippines, for a military vet or for a retiree, you got his pension, his money, and I mean, you talk only a few $100 for a nice 1-bedroom condo or studio condo or apartment, and right not far away from the beach. I mean, that's kind of hard to give up, especially if the guy's single or he just married. It's just him and his wife. I mean, you'll see a lot of people in Pattaya. You'll see the fellas going for the women and so forth, but you'll also see some couples that go there because it's so affordable there. And you have so many local attractions in addition to the walking street. You have Koh Lorn, which is an island, about 30, 40 minutes south of Pattaya. You have a number of other different beautiful islands. Kasumi, which I believe I have on this vlog as well, and it is, wow, it's amazing. I mean, you can go there, you got some company, you can bring her with you, and you can really, really enjoy nature there and just relax and get some good food as well. Because as I said earlier, Thailand really has it when it comes to cuisine on an international level. So you bring that to peaceful, nice environment like Kasumi and so forth. I mean, you really, really can have an amazing vacation. And also super safe, as with most of Far East Asia. It's super, super safe. And that goes back to the culture and just the way that the people think and look at life. And also, most importantly, in addition to the way that people think, the draconian laws is not for a lot of people that, like, let's say in Colombia, right? You know how these girls be drugging these guys. Some guys going for the debauchery. Some guys looking for a real girlfriend. There's been tons of incidents where guys are looking for a quality girl. Maybe they like Latin girls, and the women in Colombia are very hot. I mean, frankly, let's just put it out there. But it's so dangerous, and the women are doing so much nefarious activity, drugging, robbing, killing guys, uh, and then they're getting off scot free after just a week. And they murder a kid, and there's tons of incidents. You can just Google this or YouTube it. The United States government issued a warning to travelers to Colombia. I mean, the TSA agents would look at me like, "Why the hell are you going there?" When I was going there years ago, I stopped going there. But they would be, the government, the United States government issued a warning saying, particularly for guys that meet girls on the dating apps, stay out the dating apps because you have local gangs that go and rob and kill people. Well, in Asia, not to say that you don't have that nefarious activity, you do, but a lot of that's in the darkness. You really got to go looking for that. And like a lot of these countries like Colombia, Brazil, you could just be trying to be a regular dude or a good dude trying to meet somebody, and then you run up on somebody as a pro. There, not to say you can't, and let's say Thailand, but or even the Philippines, but for one, a lot of the girls, I mean, if you're not looking for that, they won't even come at you like that. But also, um, it's not so prevalent. I find that a lot of the women were, even in Thailand, you'll meet them, whatever they're doing. Also, they normally got a side hustle. They got a business or something, a tattoo shop or some business. They always they hustling like for real. They're not just lying on their back kind of thing. And then also, in addition to that, really Asian culture in general. And this goes back to culture and belief systems, which you'll find, let's say, in the West where everything's kind of quick and easy, microwavable. In the Far East, due to long-term tradition, and also in places like East Africa and so forth, like you'll see like in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopian women and so forth, the people thought process is more long-term. So they thinking more like marriage. So when you're dealing with the people, and particularly for the fellas, when you're dealing with the women, and back in most of their mind, especially Asian women, they tend to think more long term. They think about how to survive, i.e., the Thai people when dealing with these foreign nations that were trying to take them over. Same thing with the Chinese, doing business with the West the way they do it now, and how they take over different countries, right? By putting them in debt and so forth. Everything is long term. They don't want to fight people because they lose manpower. So you put people in the debt, like a lot of the African countries or like places, parts of Mexico and so forth, right? States in Mexico. But in Costa Rica with that stadium that they pay for, right? So the same thing is like on a more smaller level within interpersonal dynamics or engagements between men and women. And the women are not so much thinking about, let's say one woman I met in Africa who was sweating me for $3. They're thinking more about how do I get this guy to commit to me. And as a man is well experienced, you'll see that. You'll see that when you go over there. You'll see that kind of cultural difference with the interaction with the women. Looks like you could see it in, let's say, Senegal, which is an African country, because that's due to the fact that it's a Muslim country, and so Muslim women they're raised to look for certain things and to operate a certain way and to think more long term. And that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But I wanted to bring that up because a lot of times people are worried about who they meet, how they gonna meet, and due to those draconian laws and the way that the people are raised, you're not going to have so many people thinking about drugging and robbing and like that. They're going to think more long term. And then also they're going to think about the ill effects of drugging you, i.e. getting murdered or shot at by a firing squad. Whereas the Colombian girl, they ain't got to worry about that. They can just drug somebody, kill somebody, and then be off scot-free. Like you see with the Colombian government president guy, he thought he was going to boss around Trump, and Trump, I mean, they're not playing that crap. They're not playing that nonsense no more. People are tired of that crap. You don't come to somebody's land and you don't treat people like crap when they visit your land and then think you're going to come to their land and then treat them like crap. And then you're going to try to tell the big boss what to do. No, you're going to take your criminals back. So that's what you're seeing there. And hopefully they consider implementing some of those kind of laws that you see in the Far East, because obviously those countries have a far less issue with certain things, right? Best time to go. Well, if you're going to Thailand, right? I mean, it all depends, really. I think that I think like February, March can be a good time. You can go during that time. I think that the weather is pretty good. That's when I've seen it be a good time to go. I'm not sure exactly the high and low season, honestly. I don't want to say a fib, because I just don't know. But I've had good times when I traveled to Thailand during February months and so forth. And if you're talking about the Philippines, it's the same as well. It's in the same part and region of the world. So yeah, that's what I would say. Thailand. So, going back to the prices, like, and when you're talking about rental properties, Pattaya really gives you a deal, right? A few $100 and you got a nice place a few blocks away from the beach. And you're around so many different attractions. Not to mention you're not far away from the major international airport. Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, it's a good place to go to. It's really affordable. You'll get so. I mean, the most expensive thing you'll pay for is the flight. So you'll. But that's the thing. A hack to that. If you got a VPN, you can use a VPN. I don't know. Maybe you could. I don't know. I've heard that somewhere, and maybe things is a little cheaper through a VPN. But also, in addition to that, booking your flight in advance. I would say booking with a lot of international flights. Cathay Pacific is a air company, I believe, that goes to airline company. It's a Chinese airline company, and it goes to Thailand. So I definitely would recommend going that route. The foreign companies, and then also a lot of the major airlines for the United States has partnerships through the Star Alliance with a lot of those foreign companies. United Airlines is a good way to go. Alaska Airlines as well, and they partner with a lot of the foreign airlines. Once you touch down, things become even more cheaper. And you don't even got to use like the ride sharing services. I mean, in Thailand, you don't got to use it. Oh, they have a bus service that gets you around between Bangkok. They have the major bus hub in Bangkok. Also, in addition to that, you have the bus service that goes to Pattaya and then other local cities. So, I mean, you can just ride the bus for like $10 for hours on end. And it's real cheap, real cheap, and good way to go. And people are super polite, very organized. It's not a cluster. You'll easy to navigate, easy system to navigate, and everybody speaks English in those areas, those tourist areas, Bangkok, Pattaya, respectively. So you won't have a problem language barrier. And did I say it's pretty safe? It is. Recommend when prior to going. You look on a website called travel.gov. Travel.gov gives you a bit of a briefing, if you will, of the various countries you want to check out, to include Thailand, the safe parts, which is pretty much most of the country except for close to Burma. But you have no reason to go to part closer to Burma. As far northwest you're going to go, if you go to Thailand, would be Chiang Mai, a city called Chiang Mai, which is a popular tourist destination for particularly a lot of backpackers. A lot of hipsters, they go there. They go there. But well, your first voyage to Thailand, Bangkok and Pattaya, between Bangkok and Pattaya, that's really all you need. And I think you'll have a good time. If you go with your girlfriends, that would be a good way to go. So yeah, I definitely would say February is a good time to go, and really affordable spot to be at, whether you're visiting or living near Pattaya, or if you want to hang out in Bangkok, which has the best club, deep, particularly in Sukhumvit. You want to stay in a place called Santorin. They have a couple of really good apartment hotels and hotels respectively in that area for significantly way less than $100, and that's pretty much all year round for the most part, unless there's a major event going on. Yeah, Thailand. I mean, the infrastructure, especially if you're comparing it, contrasting between the Philippines or even a Vietnam, it's so much more robust. Many of the people are bred to know how to treat tourists. Sodi cop is always Sodi cop, respectively, depending on your man or woman. They got the $10 massages, which, I mean, if you're not into massages, I recommend you get into massages because Thailand, the Thai people, I think they come out the womb knowing how to give good massages. And the Thai massage is one of the most therapeutic experiences anybody could have. You got to try it. $10, why not? And pretty much every vendor you go to knows what they're doing. I've never been in a place where so many people are such amazing in the various respective massage studios, where people are so well versed in understanding how to give a proper massage, and especially after a long flight, you're gonna want one. You're gonna want one, and I recommend you definitely try them out. I don't really, off the top of my head, I can't think of any particular vendor, but every place I've been to there, they're really good at it. You'll see when you get there, it just is a cultural thing. So, like I said, the people come out the womb knowing how to give Thai massages. It's pretty cool experience. Food is amazing, like I've spoken of several times in this video. Uh, Relaxing islands, Katsumi, also Phuket. Not so much relaxing, a lot of crazy Russians there, but you do have a lot of activities there. A lot of great food. Um, the Muay Thai events I spoke of earlier, the white sand beaches, which is stellar. They have something called the Fifi Islands. So you've probably seen this in a couple movies. I think it was a movie called, I want to say Departed, but I'm not sure. It was a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. He was in it. And he was on the Fifi Islands. And it is such a stunning view. You got to go there once. Airbnb has a number of different option that you can take to go to the Fifi Islands. It's called the Fifi Islands. It's one of the premier touristic spots in all Thailand. House next to Phuket. Also, you can go on a company called Viator. Viator is an international tourism organization on the internet. You can also find it on your apps, on your Apple Store and so forth. It's run by TripAdvisor. And with that, it works with the local companies within any country you're in that has tours that you can take and really like go and explore. Do you want to go do some historical stuff, check out the museums, whether you want to do the nightlife, like you see on this video where you see me go to bar crawls and so forth, or whether you want to maybe do like something touristic like the Fifi Islands. They have packages that you can sign up for. They have group packages that give you discounts on the different tours of the various tours you want to check out, to include something like the Fifi Islands. And I definitely would recommend one of those two platforms, Airbnb or Viator, as it can offer opportunities to have great experience when you're on your trip in Thailand. And then also, if you decide to go to the Philippines, it has that option to you. And then also the other surrounding Asian countries, Taiwan, Vietnam, etc. Your Viator has something in all these countries. I guarantee it. And in Japan as well. So yeah, I think that pretty much concludes this video. There is so much to explore. This video has been centered primarily around the compare and contrast between the Philippines first for an extensive period of time, and then also Thailand, as those are the two popular spots for people to travel to within Asia, particularly Southeast Asia, due to the fact that it's really affordable, right? The nightlife is amazing. The culture is amazing, particularly in Thailand, and that countries such as Thailand does such an amazing job of attracting people. Its English proficiency attracts people from various nations to come to Thailand to check it out, spend some money, and really get that Thai cultural experience. And that's why I would recommend, if you're going to Asia, Thailand is probably like your best option. Philippines is popular, particularly by a lot of expats, a lot of male expats. Japan is also a popular location, but can be kind of costly, right? Um, and then a lot of people in Japan don't speak English. I mean, so you'll notice that even in Tokyo, you have some people, but it won't be at the extent of a Thailand. That's for certain. And Thailand has a lot of the first world amenities that a Japan would have with the subway and the transportational system, food options, and so forth. Like I said earlier in the middle of the video, they have shanty towns or slums, if you will, but it's very minute and it's hidden. You probably won't even see it your entire time when you're in the city, unlike, let's say, in the Philippines. And of course, Japan, you're not going to see it at all because they really don't have anything like that. But Japan, good luck with doing Uber or ride sharing service. Just 30 minutes from one location to the other. In Tokyo, you're spending $100. So most people don't do that. The ride sharing service in Tokyo, you got to go with the subway. Thailand, you got more options. You got the subway. You got you got the transient subway. You got the Uber, you got the tuk-tuks, all at a very, very affordable cost, which makes Thailand arguably the most popular place to visit in the world, I think behind Spain. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's literally up there in the top five or top three. And I don't even think Japan is, right? So Japan is a popular place to go to for a lot of Westerners, but I would say if you go to Japan, maybe stop a few days there on a long layover, and that's going to help you save some coins. Maybe cut it to where you have a long layover in Japan, then you go to your Thailand, 'cause that's where you're going to get busy at. So yeah, when you're looking at Asia, I would say not just even Southeast Asia, but Asia in general. For my travel jet setters, Thailand got you covered. All right, till next time.